Team golf up under center, single back Gibbs. They give it to Jahmyr, running outside. Got a blocker, down to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. Wave to him. He's gone, baby. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Tristan Colon with a nice block to help spring him 13 yards, and the Lions can double up their lead with the extra point.
If it's a Lions game, Jahmyr Gibbs is doing something incredible. Yes, that was the final goal of his hat trick tonight. That was Dan Miller on WXYT. We're going to be hearing a lot from Dan Miller, one of the best in the business. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, he gets those 3 touchdowns on the ground as part of a 44-30 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. We were so excited, Shooky, for a great Thursday night matchup, and what we got was a great win for the Lions, where they controlled the action, old school Lions, and by old school I mean the last couple of years, and really dominated this Cowboys defense defensively, put them in their place, and knocked that Cowboys playoff chances down to the single digits.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, I look at the numbers real quick, and I'm thinking the Lions had to be close to 500 yards of offense. Nope, just 408. They actually got outgained. Didn't look like it on the field because, like you said, they controlled the game. It was one of those games where if you've watched the Lions recently, you wonder, where are the Lions as we've known them over the last couple of years? And they've had absences. They haven't had Amon-Ra St. Brown for a while. They don't have Sam Laporta. So it kind of makes sense why, the passing game hasn't been as good as you would expect. The offensive line hasn't been at full strength. So much that Frank Ragnow tried to come out of retirement and then couldn't pass his physical. And yet now, tonight, they finally kind of put it all together against the defense that you would think maybe a month ago that they should have done this. But this Cowboys defense has been getting better. So it is, in fact, a statement win for the Lions, because they needed to state that the rest of the NFL that they're not just going to fade into the abyss. They're not just going to let this season go away. They're going to fight all the way to the end, and they got a huge victory in a big spot.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And when I was thinking about this game ahead of time, I was thinking, okay, this Cowboys team, they're kind of like, they're an upstart. Literally, it's a bunch of guys on the defense that just either got healthy or joined the team in the case of, Quinnen Williams and Jadeveon Clowney, or the rookie, Ravel, who got picked on a little bit tonight for the Cowboys, or a lot. And I thought, okay, I know the Lions have a lot of things going against it, but maybe it's a day for these guys who have been in this same system to step up and be like, not on our watch, at least not this week. And you really saw that. You saw Jared Goff, I think, have a really good game against pressure overall. There was a throw, and we've got this if you're watching on YouTube, that Jared Goff made to Jameson Williams on a crosser in the fourth quarter. So to set it up, it at one point was 27-9. The Cowboys come all the way back to make it 30-27. It's a 3rd and 6 with about 8.5 minutes left in the game. And there is immediate pressure up the middle on Jared Goff. And he has to throw that thing almost without seeing it. Total trust, gets hit. They end up calling a penalty because he got hit in the face right afterwards. Beautiful ball where he leads Jameson Williams on the catch, and they end up going to score in that drive. If they don't convert that play, Shook, it's Cowboys ball. They're down 3, and at some point in this game, the Cowboys offense basically figured out whatever the Lions defense was going to do, and they were going up and down the field. The only reason they didn't score 40 is because they turned the ball over 3 times tonight. That was the difference in this game. And so there were a few different moments like that where I thought the old guard of the Detroit Lions, and yes, Jameson Williams is old guard now. He's signed a second contract. It's Goff and Montgomery and Gibbs, and yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I thought that was a massive moment in this game and a great night for Jared Goff.
I'm so glad you highlighted that, because that wasn't the only time Goff did that in the fourth quarter. He had pressure in his face multiple times, which in previous weeks has been kind of the explanation for why their offense has just not been as productive as you would expect them to be. It was all over him again tonight. And there were moments where, again, he's throwing dirt balls where he's just trying to get rid of the ball, where he doesn't look comfortable. But eventually he adjusted it. And in the biggest spots, he was delivering throws under pressure. There was another similar throw like that where he's got a man in his face almost instantly. And I'm thinking there's no way that ball gets to him. And I think it was to Williams again near the sticks, where it was another really impressive play. And once those happened, I realized, the Lions are going to overcome this. They're not going to fold in this situation because Goff's making those throws, which we've seen in recent weeks. I can't remember exactly who the opponent was, it was the Eagles game where he looked completely lost. That defense absolutely broke his brain. It did not. His brain was not broken tonight. He stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. And I think he's been up for the challenge the last 2 weeks. Their defense really hasn't. Brian Branch was carted off tonight, and you have to give the Lions defense credit for making a few big plays. Jack Campbell forces the fumble at one point. He looked like he had a safety as well. And then they get another big interception of Dak Prescott to start the second half, which came on a slant to George Pickens where the ball gets broken up. But yeah, it's about the old guard. And when I think old guard of the Lions, it's about that running back, David Montgomery, who is not getting nearly as much playing time. Rightfully, Dan Campbell, play caller, one of the things he has done has really limited David Montgomery to keep Jahmyr Gibbs on the field. But when they used Montgomery tonight, he pulled off one of the biggest plays of the night in the second quarter.
Four across the front. They bring a blitz. They hand it off to Montgomery. Montgomery, big hole, 30-yard line, 25-yard line. Still going at the 20. Cuts it right at the 15. He's gone, baby, to the house. Demo with a touchdown. Detroit Lions, 35 yards.
17 snaps on the night, only 6 carries. But yes, that big touchdown. He also had a good reception on the night. And so he's one of the guys, again, you look to. And how about Amon-Ra St. Brown? We thought he was not going to play in this game, and he ends up with, 6 catches for 92 yards, and kind of the catch that helped put the game away when the Lions got the ball up 7 late. And ended up going in for a touchdown. That was the Gibbs' 3rd touchdown, but they needed points on that drive. And basically all these guys, they deliver, Shook. And do you think now, when you look at the schedule, only 4 games ahead, they're in a down year and they're 8-5. Like, where do you think the Lions go from here? Do you think they could make the playoffs or will make the playoffs?
I consider them a playoff team. I think they're strong enough to be a playoff team. They've weathered a lot of injuries, but they have delivered in a lot of these key moments. Now, the Packers' loss on Thanksgiving was a disappointing result, and the Eagles game was the most concerning one. But there have been other instances in which they've looked more like the team that we knew them to be, like when they blew out the Commanders, in Week 10, for example. So I think that they're in a position to do it. They do have a bit of a tough road remaining. They get the Rams in LA next week, and that's going to be tough. The Steelers, I don't know who they are. I think the Lions beat them. They dominate the Vikings, even though it's in Minnesota, because we know the Vikings aren't good. And then it all comes down to potentially that game in Chicago in Week 18. Like, that could be the deciding factor. But I feel, and I know it's only one game, and it's against the Cowboys defense that has gotten better in recent weeks, but is still the Cowboys defense. I can't tell you how many times this season I've watched a receiver running a crossing route just run right by Marquise Bell. It happened multiple times tonight again. And like you said, Sharon Ravel looked a little lost on the touchdown pass to Isaac Tesla, on the touchdown run by Jahmyr Gibbs that we played to open the show, where he, that meme of the toddler where he runs around the corner and gets scared and he's like kind of wobbling and runs away. That's what Ravel looked like at a few spots tonight. So yes, this defense that they faced is not the strongest. And so you take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but it's the metal. It's the intestinal fortitude of this team that has been tested, has been there before. I think they're going to see it through.
So this win was so key for a few reasons. The Cowboys' schedule is very favorable down the stretch, and at 6 losses, they probably have to win out. They're 6-1. I've thought all along that they are the ultimate 8-1 team, and it'll be fun to see how they get there, and they might be headed there. But the schedule sets up in a way where you could see them winning out, or certainly winning 3 of those 4. So if they had got the head-to-head, and I know they're not going to end up tying, but if they had won while the Lions lost, it would have just been brutal, because that would have been another team for the Lions to pass. But now that they put some distance between them and the Cowboys, even if they lose to the Rams next week, you have a really tough Bears schedule, and that game is sitting there in Week 18. So you could afford to probably lose to the Rams as long as you don't lose again. If you can get to Week 18, that could be the Sunday night, how about a loser goes home game between them and the Bears? And I know I'm projecting some Bears losses, but there will be losses. The Bears also, by the way, have a 49ers game. And so those are 2 teams that the Lions are trying to chase. One of them will end up losing that week. We're looking a little too far ahead. I still want to talk about this game. From the Cowboys side, they were down 27-9 when CeeDee Lamb left with a concussion. And CeeDee Lamb was having a big night, over 100 yards. Obviously, that's really concerning for them. In general, Shook, with their offense, like, what did you see like on either side of the ball that maybe gives you a little concern that we got over our skis after those back-to-back wins against the Eagles and the Chiefs?
Well, I mean, obviously, once CeeDee left, it exposed how I guess rigid they are and where they can go in the passing game, because we know who Dak is. He played another great game tonight. I know he had 2 picks on his ledger, and the first pick that he threw was ugly, but he made some throws under pressure that were just phenomenal. He's putting balls into tight windows again. He was the reason again that they were in this game. I am concerned about their offensive line, which allowed way too many pressures. That missing your starting left tackle was just a very visible weakness right from the beginning. And then you get beat on both edges on multiple occasions. The pocket integrity was just not there tonight. That worries me as they go forward. Javonte Williams has had a nice year, a better year than I think most of us expected, but he is basically their only option in the backfield, unless you go to Malik Davis, who just, popped off a touchdown run last week, but otherwise, he's very unproven. I just think that they are limited without CD and Pickens on the field at the same time. Not to mention the fact that we have this weird thing going on with their passing game where 1 week it's a Pickens week and 1 week it's a CD week. And like this week's a CD week and Pickens ends with 5 catches for 37 yards and essentially disappears. I know fantasy owners are very upset about it. There are multiple periods in this game where I'm watching on Prime Vision and they're identifying players, and it's Ryan Flournoy and it's Cavante Turpin and it's Jonathan Mingo out there. And I'm like, oh, so we're just rotating all the receivers right now. I mean, Flournoy, is basically your third receiver.
I think Flournoy could be a player. He ends up with 9 for 115 tonight. I think he moves pretty well. He got a touchdown on a broken coverage late. That was the play that made it 30-27. And that was a play where I think Brian Branch actually made a mistake. Brian Branch, who got hurt, and hopefully he can, it wasn't as bad as it looked when he got carted off, has really been struggling since that suspension. But I think Flournoy and Turpin are okay as like supplementary receivers. Obviously, they need to get CeeDee Lamb back on the field, but they have a lot to like, of course, on that side of the ball.
We know that their secondary is not good. I feel a lot better about their front 7 with the return of DeMarvin and Overshown, the addition of Quinnen Williams. I thought they'd be better against the run than they were tonight, especially in the key spots in the fourth quarter. I thought you had a really accurate tweet in which you said Brian Schottenheimer, settling for a field goal when his defense can't buy a stop. And I'm thinking, this is the moment in which the Cowboys' run defense should shine, and it just didn't at all.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I know Brandon Aubrey's great, and we're going to listen to him hitting yet another 60-yarder in just a second.
He's the reason they were in this game, by the way. Him and Dak, that was it.
Yes, and he hit a couple long ones. He was great. He's not so great that 3 is better than 7. And with apologies to Patrick Claybon, who's always saying, the 3 points counts. They still count on the scoreboard. With the situations that Brian Schottenheimer chose to go for the field goals 2 times in this game were just bad situational football. So the first one, end of the first half, it's 4th and 4. They're down 17-6. It's a long field goal, and you can be confident Aubrey's going to make it, but it's not a gimme. And he decides to kick the field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 4. The Cowboys are moving the ball well. And the reason why that was a bad decision was because with over 50 seconds left and the way that his defense was playing, I just thought, and a lot of people first guessed it, if they kick this field goal, if they make it, the Cowboys are going to give up a field goal right back. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, the Lions had a play to score a touchdown right back. 50 seconds is an eternity, and Jared Goff missed Isaac Tassau pretty open on a play down the field. So that was a mistake, and he ends up giving up 3 extra points there. Whereas at the very least, you know what Mike Vrabel would have done? You know what a lot of good coaches would have done? They would have gone up to the line of scrimmage, and they would have pretended like they were going to run a play, and then they would have called a timeout with a couple seconds left. So you burn 25, 30 seconds. Instead, they sent the field goal kicker out right away. And so the opposition knows what's happening. They take the timeout. They save the 30 seconds. All sorts of mistakes. Then at the end of the game, it's a 4th and 3. And again, they send Aubrey out there to cut the lead to 7. And I'm thinking, there's no freaking way your defense is going to stop them right now. And your special teams has stunk right all night. You want to know why the Lions had less total yards than the Cowboys?
Because Tom Kennedy was starting every drive at the 40 with his kick returns.
Exactly. So that's what happened again. He basically brought it to midfield. 2 plays later, they're in field goal range after the Amon-Ra play. And like 3 plays later, I think Gibbs has the game-winning touchdown. With all that said, let's at least give Brandon Aubrey some love. Let's listen, because I've heard this call is fun. And a listener on Blue Sky let us know. They were like, you gotta use this radio call. So let's check it out. I have not listened to it.
Butter, 63, Snap, kick. On the way, the kick is good. It's buttery good from 63 yards.
Good. It's buttery. I feel like I'm listening to like I can't believe it's not butter commercial. Buttery good.
I don't know what's with that voice. That was Brad Sham. He was having some fun on KRL and LD. I love how kickers are going deep, but it's not all about the K-ball with Aubrey. He's been hitting these kicks before. Roger Sherman had a great note that Brandon Aubrey, who's now has 6 60-plus yard field goals, now has as many 60-plus yard field goals as the entire National Football League had until 2008.
Wow. I thought we were going to pull like a number from like 1989 or something.
No, it was not. It was not like
back.
Since. I'm just saying, in the history of the league, up until 2008, there was a total of 6. And Brandon Aubrey has already hit 6.
Yeah, because in that range,
ridiculous.
Jason Elam was the only one who could really threaten. He was kicking in Denver. You had to be like at altitude to even threaten from beyond 60.
My missing toe buddy Tom Dempsey from Tulane hit that 63 yarder. That was sitting out there for a while. That was back in the 70s.
He got a shoe banned because of it.
What else can we point out in this game? There were some terrible calls. It was
terrible.
I really avoid talking calls on this game, and it's not because I work for the NFL. I just find it boring because unless like a particular call completely transforms, it happens every game, and you can find calls both ways, and it's like, there's terrible calls in every game. Like, I just don't know what else to say about it. Tonight. It was a particularly poor crew, and it went back and forth. I think the Lions got a bad whistle overall, but it almost was made up for at the end when they called an offensive pass interference against Jake Ferguson. That was a total mystery. So at least the Lions got a little bit of payback from a lot of bad calls the rest of the day.
You're right, because I'm thinking now, I'm like, this is kind of a boring topic to complain about refs. And it's also just like very cliche, but it was actually a bad week for the refs across the league. The Sunday night game was really bad. Refs getting too involved, being too, in the center of attention and not 100% affecting the game, but kind of affecting the game. Maybe it evened out a little bit at the end with that terrible call on Ferguson. In what world is that offensive pass interference? And then that leads to the field goal, by the way, just a terrible sequence for the Cowboys. But yeah, it's rough, man. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we over legislate the game and we're looking too closely for minor infractions that become, game changing or game influencing calls at the worst possible time. There was a touchdown earlier in the game that came back from penalty. By the way, the Cowboys didn't help themselves when it came to the flags tonight. They had 7 penalties accepted for 76 yards. And for a good portion of this game, it felt as if every time they made some progress and made a big play, it was coming back because of penalty. A lot of them just being self-inflicted penalties, not bad calls. So it's not like the officials had anything to do with the fact that the Cowboys lost this game. It was just a bad night for the officials overall, and the Cowboys didn't help themselves.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson had a couple of them. One of them, like we said, was a bad call at the end of the game, but he had a couple before that, including a hands to the face penalty, which ended up offsetting a long George Pickens PI, which really hurt the Cowboys. So there were frustrations, and I want to hear the Lions radio booth, which is maybe the best in the entire business. It's tough. It's tough to beat out JB Long and MJD, our friends here in Los Angeles. There's a few right at the top, but Dan Miller, he's been vying for the crown. He had the call of the year last year. Let's listen to them unhappy during this game.
Amon-Ra motion right. There's the snap. Might be a free play. Goff back looking left side. Throws. It is incomplete. Looking for Jamo. Jamo wants a flag down the left side. There's no flag for jumping offside. There's no flag for Jamo, who was interfered with. What the heck is going on here with these officials tonight?
Hold on. That was clearly offsides, right, guys?
Yes.
There were 2 guys offsides that time.
God, there are 3 guys offsides.
Yeah.
What are these officials doing? Fellas, this is a big game. You're working tonight. You're working tonight.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're working tonight.
We are working tonight. When they replayed that, though, the snap might have been early, actually, that no one was ready, but the ball moved. I don't know if there were offsides, but it should have been a penalty on the back
I have a gripe. I got a gripe.
Yeah.
And I think so to a degree, but I also think that we have, first off, pass interference needs to be changed from a spot foul to just a 15-yard penalty like it is in college football, okay? Because There's way too many times in football games in which passes are just chucked downfield, underthrown, hoping for a PI call, and it happens way too often. But what it has done, and I hear this on broadcast now, and it very much upsets me because it's not, it doesn't connect to the true like essence of football. Every time a ball is thrown up in a one-on-one situation and it's not caught and it's contested, there's a pause, and then broadcasters will go, no flag, or they'll wait for a flag to be thrown. This game should not be brought down to that. I just have to get that ran off right now. Okay. They were offside, though, and they had a very good reason to complain that it should have been a free play.
Don't get me started on the call on Thursday nights. Kirk Herbstreit and Al are making Thursday night football much less enjoyable for me. Just I need more. I need more of everything. I need more excitement. I need more analysis. I just need more. I don't think they're recovering.
Yeah, it's less content that's on your prep card and more reaction to what's going on in the game in front of you. Like that 4th down decision to kick the field goal there. Like that, Brian Schottenheimer should, at minimum, you analyze it in the moment as opposed to after the field goal, the kickoff, and the ensuing possession.
When someone tells you on the break. Let's end before we take a break, and we're going to get to your QB index. Nice little QB segment to wrap up with something more positive. Jahmyr Gibbs with that last touchdown now has as many touchdowns as any player in the history of the NFL before turning 24 years old, tying the great Barry Sanders. This is becoming a legendary start to a career for Jahmyr Gibbs. And by the way, he doesn't turn 24 until this offseason, so he has the rest of the season to break it. And he had a play that if you're watching, you can see on YouTube. And man, I feel like we're going to be playing this for a long time, making poor Deron Bland just touch the earth, you know? He put him in the dirt. I mean, it was ridiculous. And there's another angle of it where Bland is coming at the camera. There it is. That's embarrassing, bro. And that was on the same drive where he stiff-armed Bland into the ground. You
want to see a man's ego and confidence crumble right before your eyes? It's when Bland crumpled to the turf there. The great Chris Berman used to make a sound that I can't replicate.
Whoop!
There it is.
Yeah, thank you. I think actually right now, Bland, he has to at least offer his firstborn child to
name him Jahmyr. You got to name him Jahmyr. Why is my name Jahmyr, Dad? Well, there was this guy who played for the Lions who once absolutely destroyed me on primetime television when I played football back in the day.
What a player. And what a night. I'm really glad that the Lions are going to be right in this mix down the stretch. I'm not ruling out the Cowboys, but Vikings, Chargers, at Commanders, at Giants, I just don't trust this team to get through that gauntlet without stubbing their toe. And home for the Chargers is not an easy game whatsoever. So we'll see. But I like them. I want them to stay in the mix too. At least win next Sunday night. It's basically going to be an elimination game for them against the Vikings in primetime. They did not flex that game out. So we're going to get JJ in primetime one more time.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'm as I think about these Cowboys before we go to break here, I'm conflicted on how to view them right now because, and this is why I bring this question to you. If you consider all the circumstances that surrounded this team when they started the season and the way that they went through the offseason and the eventual trade of Micah Parsons to Green Bay, 8-1 would feel kind of like an achievement in Brian Schottenheimer. I know Cowboys fans expect more and the standard is higher than that. But do you think that would be considered a relatively successful season in Brian Schottenheimer's first year?
I think Brian Schottenheimer could be considered successful-ish. But no, because it's like the bar is always changing. They're basically landing where everyone expected them to be all along. They just got there in the most Cowboys way possible. But hey,
while claiming that they have Super Bowl ambitions. Okay, all right, that's fair.
Like they still have 4 more games to change our mind. It's a big rest of the season to go. But this was a disappointing day. Matt Eberflus is gonna get roasted for the next 10 days on Dallas Sports Talk Radio, just like he was early in the season. And a disappointing loss to give up a 40 burger. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side, wrap it up with a little quarterback talk. Shooky is the quarterback ranker. back on NFL Daily, wrapping up with our favorite time of week. And yes, it is time for Quarterback Keeper, presented by Snapdragon. This is where we talk about Nick Shook's QB Index. He is the man that makes the quarterback rankings at NFL Network, and they have a big graphic that they put up every week on social. And I used to be the writer of QB Index, and so I know, Shook, that when this bad boy comes out, it's got Stafford 1, May 2, Dak is 3rd. I don't know if he would go up or down off of tonight. I think he'd stay about the same. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Herbert, all unchanged this week in the top 6. Love that. And you wrap up with Love, Goff, and Baker Mayfield, and then Brock Purdy all the way up to number 10 after a nice game. That's spicy. How much hate are you getting each and every week? And how much is it going to come from me right now for ranking Lamar Jackson number 20 or something? Just preposterous. What's going on?
Wait to give away the surprise. I actually get a good amount of hate via Instagram when this is posted by the Game Day team. It has died down in recent weeks, which tells me one of two things. Either people are agreeing with me more, or they're just tired of it in general.
I think it's more late in the season. You do see some teams' fan bases just die off a little bit, and so they're not as angry. But I am. Let's start with Lamar, because every week in this segment we're gonna do someone who fell, someone who rose, and Lamar Jackson, I couldn't believe this, Shook, is ranked below Kirk Cousins on your list. The same list that had Brock Purdy rise up to the top 10 doesn't have Lamar Jackson in the top 20. Please explain yourself.
Okay, so people are going to paint me as he's just a Lamar hater. He's just a Ravens hater. Not true. Last year when Josh Allen won the MVP, guess who was number 1 at the end of the year on my QB index? Lamar Jackson, because he deserved to win MVP. Big Lamar fan. Do not like the version of Lamar we're seeing right now. He is nowhere near who he is at the peak of his powers, who the Ravens need him to be to reach their potential. And I know a lot of it has to deal with the injuries that he's dealt with his ankles, right? They're both spatted up, thick spats every week, but his mobility is almost gone. He cannot separate from rushers anymore. He doesn't look confident that he can actually turn that into a weapon again. And I think it's affecting his entire process as a quarterback. Now, he still makes some good throws from time to time, and it didn't affect him initially when he came back. I think he had a 4-touchdown game when he first came back. But in the last few weeks, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. This offense has struggled mightily, and he is not the dynamic threat that we've known him to be. And the weird thing about this exercise is because we have so many guys going in and out of the rankings, these numbers they kind of lie to you. Now, Kirk, I thought, had one of the better games you're going to see from a backup in that loss to the Jets this week. I was shocked by how accurate he was.
Let's calm down. Kirk was okay.
Given how bad he was the week before. It's all relative week by week.
Yeah, but that's what I wanted to get to. Does the first month of Lamar playing like an MVP matter at all? Because to me, Lamar Jackson could come out and he could have a Freaky Friday with Tim Tebow for the rest of the season. And even that month would have him ahead of Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season. Give me a break, Shookie.
And I can say I'm guilty of recency bias, but because it's a week by week thing, and because his last game before he had his extended absence was a nightmare against the Chiefs, partially due to injury, I feel like that was such a long time ago that I cannot really justify on a week by week basis that he should be ahead of even a guy like Kirk Cousins. Then the other reason that he's down this far is because we had a number of guys come back from injury. We had CJ Stroud come back from injury. We had Jackson Dart come back, and we had Joe Burrow. So that pushes him down 3 more places. I just need one decent competitive game from him, and he's going to climb back up. But it's been a very volatile season for a lot of the household names, and Lamar is not spared from that.
He wasn't a total disaster against the Jets. But to back you up, even though I think this is harsh, on PFF, which I don't hate their QB scoring. I kind of get what they're doing, giving positives, giving negatives for each play. It usually does grade out in a way that makes sense to me. Even if you disagree with them, they have multiple people watching each and every play. That's a useful thing to happen. The last 2 years, he's been the highest quarterback. He's been in the 90s, 94,
rightfully
90,
so.
Whatever. Over the last 6 games, and that's going all the way back to that Chiefs game you're talking about, he has 3 games in the 40s, which is, worst quarterback in the league territory. I think that's harsh and everything.
Do
but
you
I
see
would,
what I'm talking about now?
I would guess if you went through his last 5 years, you might not find 3 other games in the 40s. And the
not
other
even
games
in the 50s. He could have thrown 3 picks and it wouldn't have been in the 50s.
I still think it's too much. I think at some point, Shook, you got to just look. And when you're writing down Lamar Jackson and then you're looking above him and you're seeing the name Kirk Cousins. And
I know.
You just gotta do what's right and not do
I know.
That. That's what
I'm hey, you know what? When I get to the process, when I start ranking them, there's a lot of movement. I'll start writing it. You know what? That actually doesn't make sense. 5 minutes later, I swap a couple guys here and there. This one, it was when I put Lamar down there, I was like, God, that's really tough. But I have no way to justify that he should be ahead of any of these guys that are right.
I would give a little more weight to the first 3 weeks because even those 3 weeks, that's just better than any of these guys at the bottom have ever done.
That's fair, but it's also sample size. Think about that too.
That's fair. Okay, let's talk positive. Give me a quarterback that went up in the rankings that you liked watching this week.
Okay, so I said this is a volatile exercise. No quarterback in the NFL has had a more volatile season than Bryce Young. Greg, we just watched him play the Niners and look completely overmatched, as if he couldn't make decisions on time. He couldn't throw accurate passes. He couldn't maybe even see over the offensive line. He didn't look confident. It was ugly. The week before that, he torched the Falcons. The week after that, he lights it up again. I don't know who he is from week to week. He's making throws on 3rd and 4th down in tight windows, in big spots, like it's nothing. Incredible accuracy, incredible clutch gene. He threw 2 passes of 30+ yards for touchdowns on 4th down in this win over the Rams. And it's not the credit that the fact that he was, he led the Panthers to a win over the Rams necessarily. It's how he played in the biggest spots. He looked so composed, and it just blows my mind that he can look so different from one week to the next. But this week, he was excellent, and he was a big reason why the Panthers got that upset victory.
Totally agree. It was a composed, perfect game where it's mostly short stuff against the Rams, but then on 4th down, when they went big play hunting, he hit those big plays. And that's the thing about Bryce Young. He's a strange evaluation because his great throws are really great. It's not like he's a quarterback that you watch and you don't think is talented. Like, he has next level, the way he sees the game and some of the just chutzpah that he can put on some of those throws. But then you can have other games, like 2 of the last 4 are the 49ers game and the Saints game, which were just brutal. And so that's why it's tough when you're ranking them. If I was your editor, I'm a jerk here. I would be like, you got to average it out a little bit. Don't go so much, for week to week. You kind of got to look at the big picture. And when you add that all up, you want a quarterback that is more consistent. So to me, overall, it's been a little below average this season. But to your point, trending up after an excellent game, an excellent 2 out of 3 games. It's just that garbage game in the middle.
This will, I think, give proper context to his current standing. He climbed 12 spots, by the way.
So how can someone climb 12 spots this late?
Because there's a lot of movement around him. But consider the guys he's sandwiched by right now: Trevor Lawrence, and Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
that sounds about right, right?
Yes. Trevor Lawrence, yes. Caleb has had his issues, and so I get why they're in the same area. I would have Caleb ahead, certainly. In my mind, Trevor and him are occupying kind of the same space in the sphere. Maybe your editors are just like afraid of you because of all the.
I'm 2,000 miles away.
I know, but just
I have to take a 5-hour flight to pose any threat. Come on,
an imposing figure. Maybe that's it. They're just saying,
or maybe it's just a big workload.
Or you know what?
We'll go with it.
Maybe it is an enormous workload. You put a lot of work into it, and I kid here, but no one does a better job breaking it all down. Maybe they know also it's good for business to see the rankings. They would get they would get on me back in the day. I'm like, it's 15 weeks, nothing really changed in the top 10, and they're like, it's boring if you just rerun the same rankings.
And you know what? I was probably a little more static with my rankings in previous seasons than I have been this year, but I think this year has been one of those wild years where there's been so much fluctuation that it's justified. And the inverse of that, on the flip side, is the fact that, as we showed in the top 10, the first 6 guys didn't move. Because when I looked at all their performances, I thought Stafford's still number 1. May is closer than ever to him, but he's still number 2. Dak had a good game on Thanksgiving. Josh Allen had a great game, but I can't justify moving him ahead of Dak right now. And the same is true for Mahomes and Herbert. Like there's two sides to this whole process, but it makes for a lot of fun debate and some occasionally angry personal attacks to me via direct message, but that comes with the territory.
Yeah, I apologize for that, but I do think you have Baker Mayfield too high, so I just had to come after you pretty hard.
I think he was out of the top 10 last week.
He should be. That was Quarterback Keeper, by the way, presented by Snapdragon. Learn more at snapdragon.com/laptops. All right, let's get out of here. Shook, we'll be back in the feed. Thank you for all that you do. We will have Shook on covering the big Bills-Bengals game on Sunday night on the recap show. I can't wait. But before that, we're going to see if the greatest streak in sports can continue. Can I get to 10 straight winning weeks picking against the number with Cynthia Freeland? That show will be in the feed on Friday. We will see you then.